to those who are still searching for answers. I am Archive 87. Here we examine the mysteries hidden beneath history, the secrets buried by time, and the truths concealed behind power. You may listen as though these are only stories, but if you understand what is spoken here, do not forget it. For our future, which often begins with a forgotten truth. For there may come a day when the world remembers what it was never meant to forget. Every civilization has its moments of disclosure, not when the truth changes, but when humanity becomes willing to hear it. Perhaps this is one of those moments. During the late 20th century, humanity began using the term gray to describe a mysterious species of extraterrestrial beings allegedly responsible for abducting humans and carrying out a hidden agenda. The origin of that image can be traced back to what is widely regarded as the first alien abduction case to receive international media attention. In the decades that followed, hundreds of reported close encounters around the world shared strikingly similar descriptions. Witnesses consistently described pale gray skin, oversized black eyes, almost no nose, and a small mouth. The incident that gave birth to that image became known as the Betty and Barney Hill incident. The events began on the night of September 19, 1961. Betty and Barney Hill were driving home through rural New Hampshire after returning from a vacation to Niagara Falls in Canada. During the journey, Barney noticed a bright object in the night sky. At first, he paid little attention to it. Betty, however, immediately felt that something about the light was unusual. As they continued driving, the object appeared to move with them. It seemed to follow their vehicle. Concerned, Barney decided to take a different route. The object remained overhead. The couple eventually stopped their car and stepped outside with a pair of binoculars. What they saw was unlike anything they had ever encountered. According to their account, the object was disc-shaped, lined with rows of illuminated windows, glowing in multiple colors. Silhouettes appeared to move behind the windows, realizing they might be watching something extraordinary. The Hills rushed back into their car and drove away. After that moment, the object was no longer visible. But another phenomenon began. Throughout the drive, the couple repeatedly heard a strange rhythmic buzzing sound. Soon afterward, both experienced an overwhelming sense of disorientation. Their memories became fragmented. When they regained awareness, nearly 2 hours had disappeared. Neither of them could explain where that time had gone. When they finally arrived home, they noticed several unusual details. Barney's shoes were mysteriously damaged. Betty's dress appeared torn, as though it had been pulled or caught by force. Neither of them remembered how it had happened. In the days that followed, Betty began experiencing a series of nightmares. In those dreams, she and Barney were taken aboard a craft, where they were subjected to medical examinations performed by non-human beings. Believing the dreams might somehow be connected to their missing memories, Betty soon contacted the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. NICAP investigator Walter Webb interviewed the couple for several hours. Although they could clearly remember the beginning and the end of their journey, neither Betty nor Barney could account for the missing 2 hours. The following year, Barney's health began to deteriorate. His high blood pressure and stomach ulcers returned, and his doctor believed psychological stress was the major factor. The year after, the couple visited the Boston psychiatrist Dr. Benjamin Simon, who specialized in hypnosis. During separate hypnosis sessions, both Betty and Barney gradually reconstructed the missing portion of that night. According to their recovered memories, they had been taken aboard an extraterrestrial craft. Separated into different rooms, they underwent a series of physical examinations. Betty described the beings as remarkably human-like, yet unmistakably different. They had gray skin, minimal noses, thin mouths, large, wraparound eyes. She also recalled one particularly disturbing moment. A long needle was inserted into her abdomen. At one point during the encounter, Betty asked the apparent leader of the group a simple question: "Where do you come from?" In response, the being presented her with what appeared to be a star map, implying that it identified the location of their home system. After the hypnosis sessions, Betty reproduced the map from memory. Years later, researchers attempting to interpret the drawing proposed that it corresponded to the Zeta Reticuli binary star system, located approximately 39 light-years from Earth. From that moment on, the Betty and Barney Hill incident became one of the most influential and controversial cases in the history of the UFO phenomenon. For more than 60 years, public opinion has remained deeply divided over the Betty and Barney Hill incident. Some believe it represents the first credible case of alien abduction. Others dismiss it as a combination of stress, suggestion, dreams, and hypnosis. Most of the debate has focused on two familiar questions. Do extraterrestrial civilizations exist? And if they do, would they abduct humans? Those are reasonable questions, but they may not be the most important ones. The universe is unimaginably vast. If intelligent life exists elsewhere, then civilizations capable of traveling across interstellar distances would almost certainly possess technologies far beyond anything humanity currently understands. Instead of asking whether an advanced civilization could abduct two humans, perhaps we should ask how such a civilization would actually carry out such an operation. According to Betty and Barney's account, the craft descended close to the highway. The couple stopped their car. The beings approached. They were then taken aboard the craft. At first glance, that sequence appears dramatic. But when viewed from the perspective of a civilization capable of crossing 39 light-years, it begins to raise an entirely different question. Why would a civilization possessing technology advanced enough for interstellar travel rely on a method that resembles a human roadside kidnapping? The operation required the craft to visibly approach the targets. It exposed itself to observation. It frightened the subjects, and it involved physically transporting them into the vehicle. Ironically, the entire procedure feels remarkably human, almost like the tactics used by organized criminals. If such a civilization truly possessed technology capable of traveling between stars, then surely it would also possess the ability to incapacitate its subjects remotely and silently. The targets could have lost consciousness without ever seeing the craft. They could have awakened hours later with no memory of anything unusual, no fear, no witnesses, no dramatic encounter. From an operational standpoint, such an approach would have been vastly more efficient. Which raises an obvious question. If they possessed superior technology, why choose such an unnecessarily primitive method? But an even greater contradiction appears later. According to the Hill's account, the beings successfully removed their memories of what occurred aboard the craft. Yet they left intact the memories leading up to the encounter itself. The sighting, the pursuit, the object in the sky, and the fear. If they possessed the ability to alter human memory with such precision, why leave behind the very evidence that would convince the victims something extraordinary had happened? A far simpler solution would have been to replace the missing time with an ordinary memory. The couple could have remembered pulling over because they were exhausted. Perhaps they fell asleep inside the car. Perhaps they simply lost track of time during the drive. Either explanation would have attracted little attention. Instead, they remembered enough to spend the rest of their lives searching for answers. Even more puzzling, the supposedly erased memories were eventually recovered through hypnosis. If that is true, then the memory alteration was not permanent. For a civilization capable of crossing interstellar distances, That seems surprisingly unreliable. One would expect memory manipulation, performed by such a civilization, to be far more complete, perhaps even impossible to reverse using human psychological techniques. Unless the memories were never meant to disappear completely. Or perhaps someone wanted fragments of the event to remain. Because once we stop asking whether an abduction occurred, and begin asking why it unfolded in this particular way, the Betty and Barney Hill incident starts to look less like a simple encounter, and more like a carefully engineered operation. The following record was recovered from Archive 011, Earth Calendar, September 19, 1961, night. A permanent group of the Gray faction, stationed within the solar system, dispatched a team with a small craft to Earth to carry out an assigned operation. On a highway in North America, the team located its long-confirmed mission targets, a middle-aged human couple. Although the team clearly possessed the capability to remotely sedate the designated subjects without detection, eliminating the need for any frightening or physically violent procedure, it instead chose to carry out what humanity would later define as a kidnapping, using a method remarkably similar to that employed by organized human criminal groups. After transporting the designated subjects aboard the craft, the team administered sedation to both individuals. In accordance with the contract, restorative medical procedures were successfully performed on the subjects. The team also extracted genetic material from both humans. The extraction of genetic material was not included within the contract. Archive analysis suggests that this omission was most likely an intentional loophole, deliberately preserved by both parties to the contract. Following the procedures, the team performed a memory modification procedure on both human subjects. In addition, an unidentified biological compound was administered to the female subject. Based on everything that occurred after the incident, the archive concludes that the team erased portions of the couple's memories, while deliberately implanting an additional memory sequence into the female subject. However, the stellar map contained within the implanted memory did not identify the homeworld of the Gray faction group responsible for the operation. Instead, it identified the homeworld of a civilization belonging to an entirely different faction. Based on all information currently available to the archive, the following assessment has been reached. The primary objective of this operation was not the human subjects themselves. The true objective was a civilization belonging to another faction. The Gray faction has long pursued an objective involving human civilization. However, due to the existence of the ordinance, together with the continued presence of the opposing faction, that objective has remained difficult to achieve. The archive therefore concludes that this operation was deliberately planned to produce fear of extraterrestrial civilizations within human society. The evidence supporting this assessment includes the intentional use of a highly visible, fear-inducing interception method, resembling a human criminal kidnapping rather than a concealed operation, the deliberate removal of portions of the subject's memories, while intentionally leaving behind inconsistencies that could later be discovered. The implantation of memories involving invasive biological examinations designed to generate fear. The implantation of a stellar map directing responsibility toward the Zeta Reticuli civilization. Taken together, these actions strongly suggest that the purpose of the operation was to create widespread fear of extraterrestrial civilizations among humanity, while deliberately shifting responsibility for that fear onto the civilization of Zeta Reticuli. Archive 011, preserved. Remember, truth is rarely found in a single story. Every conspiracy could be wrong, yet every conspiracy could contain a fragment of the truth. Truth is rarely found in a single story, and only when every fragment is assembled does the picture begin to emerge. Listen widely, remember carefully, think independently.